As drummers, having great time and great feel is at the absolute core of our responsibilities as musicians. It's something that we will continue to work on for our entire playing careers, but sometimes we might overlook the most simple ways in which we can work on our time and our feel. Today, I want to share with you 3 ways in which you can use your body to not only develop a deeper pocket, solidify your time, but in some cases, help you feel more connected to the music on a truly visceral level. Let's get into it. What's up everyone, welcome to Drummer's Perspective. My name is Ben Todd and I'm here to help broaden your scope of what's possible as a drummer. Thanks so much for checking out the video today. If you are new to the channel, please subscribe, hit that like button, that really helps me out here. Before we get into it though, I want to offer you a free gift right at the start, and today that's my 7 ways to attract more work as a drummer PDF guide. Now, if you're a drummer who's out in the scene, you're playing a few gigs here and there, or perhaps you're actually quite established in the scene, but you still want to be working more and maybe playing in some different musical environments, or perhaps you're just in the practicing stage of your development, you feel like you're working on the right stuff, but maybe there's some other avenues of the music industry that you want to learn about, but you're not really sure where to start in terms of bringing in more income later down the track, then this guide is perfect for you. Inside, I offer you my 7 best tips to broaden your scope of what's possible as a drummer and using your current drumming skill sets as a foundation, but building on top of that and hopefully bringing in a little bit more income, a little bit more work, and most importantly, some more musical opportunities for you down the track. The best thing about this guide is that only one of the steps involves picking up a pair of drumsticks at all. So if that sounds good, head on over to drummersperspective.com/7ways and download that free PDF guide right now. So the 3 techniques and approaches that I want to talk about today I use to some degree whenever I play. I picked them up from 3 very different but equally incredible drummers, and they're all techniques that when I started working on them, I noticed an immediate and dramatic improvement in not only my time and my feel, but just how I felt when I played the drums in general. Now, like any technique and approach that you're trying to ingrain into your playing that's potentially going to affect how you play the drums all the time, you really want to work on this stuff as much as you can by yourself in the practice room before you try and use it on a gig with other live musicians. Especially with time and feel exercises, if you try and use these approaches in a live situation before they're really ready, it's probably going to have the opposite effect to start with, where your time's going to be really shaky, your feel's going to be really lumpy because you're overthinking what you're trying to do. So work on this stuff as much as you can by yourself, let it come out in your playing naturally whenever it's ready, but don't try and force it into a live situation too early. And like any time and feel exercise, make sure that you practice this stuff with a click track. So the first technique I want to talk about today, I picked up from the great Dave Ehrlich when I was lucky enough to have an in-person lesson with him in LA back in 2019. And I was asking his thoughts and opinions on how a drummer might develop a better feel and deeper pocket and have more consistent and confident time. And he was great. He started out by just asking me to play a simple 2-on-4 groove at whatever tempo I wanted. So I sat down and played a simple groove, that kind of thing. After a little while, Dave stopped me and said, "You know, you don't really move when you play very much." And I thought, that's kind of weird. Of course I'm moving. I'm playing drums. I'm moving pretty much every limb that I have. After a little bit of explanation and demonstration, what Dave kind of was saying to me was that I don't really move my upper body or head in any way in time with the music. And I was actually really quite stiff in this whole part of my body. All I was really focusing on was my hands and my feet. Now, I'd heard about the concept of like dancing when you play to help with your feel and time, but I never really understood what that meant on a practical sense. So Dave went on to explain this concept and technique to me, where you think about moving your shoulders and upper body in time with the beats. So he asked me which shoulder felt more natural to lead with, and I thought, well, if I'm going to rotate side to side like this, I guess my right shoulder is more dominant. So he got me to count out loud, just 1, 2, 3, 4, and start to rotate my shoulders in time with those beats, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Kind of like a walking motion, I guess. Once we did this for a little while and I started to feel comfortable with it, he got me to do this playing a groove. Now I gotta say, this was like an immediate change in like not only how I sounded when I played the drums, but how I felt when I was playing this simple groove. I all of a sudden felt so much more connected to the pulse and the feel like in my body, because I was actually moving in time with it for the first time ever. I started playing the same groove again, that kind of thing, and like I said, it was an immediate change in my time and feel, and it was actually something that Dave commented on himself. He said, yeah, that sounds more like it. Just from that simple beat can feel so much better with a very small change. So from there, depending on what feels more natural to you, you can lead with your left shoulder or right shoulder. It doesn't really matter, it's just personal preference. Also, depending on tempo, maybe you'll be rotating your shoulders every beat, and your leading shoulder will be on the downbeat, and your opposite shoulder will be on the upbeat, like a 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and do ga do ga, that kind of thing. It really depends on the tempo. Obviously, for faster tempos, it's going to be different again. Do ga do ga do ga do ga do ga do ga. Maybe you're rotating every 2 beats instead of every beat. So try it for yourself. I see a lot of drummers out there now that I'm conscious of it who are very stiff and don't really move when they play, and it was something that I was certainly guilty of for a very, very long time. But when it was shown to me and I started to become conscious of it, it was really something that I started to work on quite a lot, and now I really think about it and do it like all the time. Now, you don't want to overdo this. You don't want to be sitting there, especially on a gig, going like 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, like a stiff robot or anything like that. It's really something, like I said in the beginning of the video, you want to work on this as much as you can and experiment with it and think about it and figure out a way that works best for you to integrate it into your groove and into your playing. You don't want to be thinking about this on a gig at all, because it's going to have the opposite effect of what you're trying to get it to achieve, which is to help deepen your pocket, have a better feel, and more consistent time. Now, the great Dave Weckl talks about this concept as well, of when you're playing time, to think about it being the same effortless motion as you walking. And to me, this is a direct relation with Dave Elitch's approach, which is this just constant kind of motion that is supposed to replicate and tie in with the constant and consistent motion and feel of a groove. So yeah, if you haven't thought about this kind of thing before, and you've always been a little bit self-conscious to think about the approach of dancing when you play, then for me, this is something that really, really helped, and I use it every day. Now, I'm at a stage with it now where I'm not as kind of dramatic with my movements. It might be just really subtle, but it's still something that I'm feeling like internally and kind of picturing as well. So once you do it for a period of time, maybe you don't have to be as big with your motions, but starting out, really try and think about it, and in terms of like a physical action that you're trying to line up with the beats. And obviously, like I said at the beginning too, if you practice this with a click track, it'll help you keep you accountable and solidify your internal time even more if you can integrate using your body into your groove. The next concept that I want to talk about is something that I picked up from the great Dave DiCenzo. Now, if you don't know Dave, go and check him out on YouTube. There's some incredible footage of him playing some solo stuff and some stuff with bands, particularly a solo that he did at Modern Drummer Festival quite a few years ago. That's just absolutely incredible. His control and flow and creative ideas are just second to none, really. He's a super inspirational drummer for me. Anyway, I was seeing some clips of him playing some solo stuff on YouTube, and I noticed that he was using his mouth to verbalize some like percussive shaker 16th note patterns as he was playing. Now, first of all, this sounded like super groovy to me actually, because he was kind of giving himself a loop to play along with. But then it got me thinking about the concept of like locking in with yourself. And if you can establish and develop kind of a loop with your mouth and kind of lock into that, it's going to help bring all of your limbs together and address some internal time issues that you might have to deepen your groove and solidify your clock and all of that stuff. Now, I was first introduced to the concept of verbalizing patterns and counting patterns out loud by the great book The New Breed by Gary Chester, and I believe that Dave DiCenzo also has some books out that use this same kind of technique, and in his teachings he uses this concept quite a lot. So if you're interested in diving deeper into this, go and check out those books, because they're going to be a great resource for this kind of information. But to start with, to give you an idea of some of the stuff that I started to work on when I started thinking about this concept, was just to verbalize a straight 16th note pattern with kind of any sound you want. And I went with kind of like a just something like that, to give myself a consistent kind of loop to play along with. Now, after I put a click track on and started, to get comfortable vocalizing this straight 16th pattern and then layering grooves with it, it was an immediate change. Like, I really felt my body and my limbs trying to line themselves up with my voice much more than I had experienced before when I was just trying to play to a click track, like an external, 16th note source. All of a sudden I was trying to lock in with myself, and things were trying to align themselves in a way that I hadn't really experienced before. So especially for kind of slower tempos where there might be a lot of space between the notes, and I know some drummers might struggle with feeling those kind of grooves, the real slow quarter note bass, like do ga, that kind of thing. Working with this concept of vocalizing a 16th note pattern with your voice when you're playing those kind of grooves really helps to kind of solidify your internal clock and hear that space much stronger than if you're just trying to focus on listening to every quarter note beat. Now, of course, this is something that's really important to develop as well, just being able to feel the space. But if you're struggling with feeling that space, verbalizing this 16th note pattern really does help. Now, I don't want to dive too deep into the subject of changing that concept, because you should, like I said, check out books like The New Breed and Dave's books, because they'll do a much better job of explaining the concepts in detail than I can do in a short video like this. But once you're comfortable with the idea of vocalizing a straight 16th note pattern, like a when you play, then you can change it up and accent different parts of that 16th note pattern with your voice, like a do 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 ga do 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 ga do 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 ga kind of thing, or a do 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 ga go do 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 ga do do do, or do 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 ga do do go go da go do ga go, depending on the tempo and what the details of the groove that you're playing specifically are. One of those accent patterns might help to solidify things even more. So this is just such a really kind of simple concept that you can use to use your voice to help line up your limbs. Now, for me, like, before I was exposed to this kind of technique, I really didn't think that I could use my voice as a way to get better at playing the drums. But after doing it for a long time now, I've really noticed a difference. And sometimes I'll even do it on a gig if I'm feeling really comfortable and I want to kind of really feel like connected to like a 16th note pulse, just subtly, that kind of thing. It really is quite a cool thing, and can help make you feel even more connected to the groove and the pulse of the song. The other cool thing about it is you don't have to be, making noise audibly whenever you're doing it. It's more kind of about feeling it, in your mouth and in what you're verbalizing. So what I mean by that is you can breathe out with the pattern and then breathe in with the pattern too. So you don't have to kind of necessarily think about your breath and when you might breathe to keep the pattern rolling along. It's something that you can, for example, do like a I'm just breathing in and out, but the pattern is still kind of rolling over. So in terms of keeping things consistent and keeping your groove going, and especially playing a song where you want to be able to, keep that consistent pattern going for the duration of it. This is just a really cool technique and something that you can start to work on and integrate into your playing. Like I said, this really made a dramatic improvement in how I felt space between notes at slower tempos, but also help really line up, some intricate 16th note grooves that I was playing, help my limbs, kind of get in sync with each other a bit more, because I was trying to focus to get it all in sync with my voice. So try that out. Again though, make sure you practice this stuff with a click. So the last concept that I want to talk about today, I've only started working on fairly recently myself, but I picked it up from the great drummer Adam Deitch. Now, if you don't know Adam, he's just an incredible funk, soul, and R&B drummer playing with bands like Lettuce and Break Science. He's one of my absolute favorite funk drummers at the moment. He was discussing the concept of aligning the timing of your breath with the time of the song. So as a general overview of it, he was discussing breathing in for one bar and breathing out for one bar. Now, we as drummers don't really pay much attention to the consistency of our breath when we play, apart from hopefully we're continuing to breathe, but we don't pay attention to it like a singer would, or a brass player or a woodwind player would. But if you think about this concept, if you can align the timing of your breath with the tempo of the song, you can really feel like really connected to the music and the pulse on an almost visceral and in some cases like meditative level. Now for me, I know when I started working on this, it was a really, really incredible sensation to find the tempos that worked, because I have to stress that this really only works at certain tempos. You in no way want to be changing dramatically or constricting the consistency of your breath in order to, execute this exercise, because if you're doing that, you're going to achieve the absolute opposite result that we want here, which is to deepen your pocket and solidify your feel and that kind of thing. If you're thinking about changing the way you breathe too much, it's not going to work. So really, it works with certain tempos, but really not everything. It's certainly in my experience anyway. But you don't have to think about it, breathing in for one bar and breathing out for one bar. It can be breathing in for 2 beats and then breathing out for 2 beats, or it can be breathing in for 2 bars, breathing out for 2 bars. It really just depends on the tempo and the feel of the song. But for example, if we've got a tempo like 1, 2, 3, 4, you might go. That kind of thing. Faster tempo, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. You might think about breathing in for 2 bars and out for 2 bars. As mentioned at the start of this video, you really want to work on this by yourself and find the tempos and feels that work best for you, and don't overdo it. If you're sitting on stage trying to, do this kind of concept and technique in a live situation, you could end up, doing some damage, and certainly don't want to be up there hyperventilating just to try and align your breath with the tempo of a song. But like I said, if you can find the tempos and grooves and feels where you can use this concept of keeping your breath consistent with the tempo of the song, the sensation you have being connected to the music and the pulse is on a really, really different level than certainly I'd experienced in any other situation before, where I was playing and not really paying much attention to my breath in general. So try it out for yourself, work on it at home, take your time with it. If it's not feeling right for you, then stop. We don't want to do any damage or cause any harm in absolutely any way at all, but it can really make a huge difference to how you feel when you're playing certain tempos if you can align your breath with the song. That's it for now. I really hope you've enjoyed checking out the video of the 3 ways that you can use your body to help work on your time, feel, and deepen your pocket. I'd really, really love to hear from you though. If you've got any ideas and techniques or approaches that you use to work on your time and feel with your body, or any other method for that matter, please put it in the comments below. I'd really love to check it out, and I'm sure a lot of other drummers would appreciate hearing some other thoughts as well. Thanks so much again. Head to drummersperspective.com and sign up to the mailing list, and I'll see you next time on Drummer's Perspective.